Now, finally, let me introduce our speaker today, Mr. Charles Agro. Charles came to Baker from Brooklyn, New York, so you may hear that just a little in his accent. He was the member of the class of '79. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in biology and psychology, and he was a member of our football team. And I've heard even then he was one of our leaders. You can read about his bio right in your program and hear more about him, but I want to tell you a couple of personal things. About a year ago, I was in New York, just about this time, and Charlie took me through the World Trade Center facility and the rebuilding, and we spent a morning there. And he's going to tell you a little bit about his career and his life work. But I realized that day he was a true hero, and I said, would you come back and share your story and be with us today? Now, he spent most of his life in New York, but I will tell you his ties to Baker run deep. When he met me, he said, my mentor was Dr. Gene Nelson, and he is here today. Several of his friends are here today, and even some faculty are here today who remember Charlie as a student. That's the testament to Baker. It's our strength, our history, and our future. Several members of his family are here with us today, and I'd like to recognize them. They're sitting back here. His wife, Debbie. If you would stand, Debbie. His daughter, Alyssa. Son, Charles. Charles's wife, Julie. Their granddaughters, Carson and Ryan. These are two of the best kids I've seen. I know they're going to be great through the ceremony. Thank you for being here. And now it was with great pride that I introduce Baker alum, Mr. Charles Agro.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Wow. President Long, members of the Board of Trustees, faculty, administration, distinguished guests, friends, families, and most of all, our graduates here today. I am so deeply honored to be at this commencement and so privileged to have been asked to address you today. But first, let me be one of the first to extend my congratulations to all the graduates on your graduation from Baker University. You should be very proud of your accomplishments, as I am sure the university and your families are of you. In many ways, this day is all about families, how important they've been to us while we set and achieve our goals. It's great to be back at Baker University, where my own family can again spend time with my Baker family. Moreover, you, the graduates, will see that as your families grow, so will your Baker family continue to grow and remain a very important part of your life. I just want to tell you a quick story about the first time I met President Long. It was just about a year ago, as she mentioned, that Jerry Weekly had contacted me that he, along with President Long, Lynn Lakin, and Doug Barth, were coming to New York to host an alumni event. Jerry asked me if it was possible to set up a tour of Ground Zero at the World Trade Center. The year before that, Peggy and Dan Harris were up there with a bunch of Baker students, and we had escorted them on a tour of the World Trade Center. That was the day after we had responded to a crash, the plane crash that was known as the Miracle on the Hudson. It was my pleasure to accept Jerry's request, and I look forward to meeting a new part of my Baker family. Once I met the group, we took off on that cold December day for a tour of the Trade Center. A good friend of mine took him into the heart of the World Trade Center, which is under construction. I wanted them to feel the impact of 9/11 and to see how we are rising from one of the worst tragedies in this country's history to once again show the world that we will not surrender to anyone. We climbed the construction stairways, we walked over pipes, we walked through the mud, and throughout the whole experience, they never tired. But at the end of the tour, I saw the look in their eyes, they felt the impact, and they understood. A couple of days later, I was back at the World Trade Center, and some of the construction workers had asked me who those people were that were inside the site. Were they VIPs? I said, yes, they are very important people. They are the people that will help shape some of the future leaders of this country at a great university. They are making the American dream available to anyone who is willing to work for it. All of us here come from different backgrounds and experiences. Here is a brief look into my background and how I came to seek the American dream at Baker for both my family and me. My grandparents were born in Italy and immigrated into the country as children through Ellis Island in the early 1900s. Their family settled in the east side, the lower east side of Manhattan, in the tenements, and as children they worked in the notorious sweatshops. They met each other, married, started a family, and left the slum conditions of Manhattan for the suburbia of Brooklyn, New York. Both my parents grew up in Brooklyn, but circumstances beyond their control didn't afford them the educations they wanted. They understood the value of education and made sure that my sister, brother, and I pursued ours. My father was a construction worker. My mother was a homemaker. No one set a better example of hard work than my parents did. Graduating from high school was considered a big accomplishment. I was playing football at Lafayette High School in Brooklyn, and in my senior year decided I wanted to go to college. I started getting mail from Baker University, and I was impressed what I was reading about this school. Some of my friends couldn't understand why I wanted to go to college, or even visit a faraway place called Kansas. I was fortunate to have attended Baker as a biology major. The one thing I found out quickly about the Baker family was once you were here, they were not going to let you slip through the cracks. I was taught by some of the top professors in their fields and at a very personal level. I must acknowledge two special people whose unwavering support and confidence in me always kept me motivated. Dr. Eugene Nelson, my faculty advisor and biology professor, and the late Dean of Men, Fred Webb, both would not accept anything less than my best, but would always help me to attain it. In addition, I had the privilege of playing for some of its greatest football coaches, Coach Carl Spear and head coaches Jim Irick and Joe Girardi. Under Coach Girardi in the 1978 season, we were ranked number 2 in the nation and was invited to play in Baker's first postseason bowl game, the Boot Hill Bowl. I was the first in my family to graduate from college. My parents and grandparents attended my graduation. It was a proud day for me, as it is for you today. I can even appreciate it more as I have a family of my own. Achieving our family's American dream continues as my son Charles and daughter Alyssa are college graduates, and my daughter Teresa is an education major at Cabrini College, following her mom's footsteps. After graduating from Baker in 1979, I began my career at the Tulsa City County Health Department in the environmental protection field. I went back to New York in 1981 in the same field, working for a private corporation. And in 1985, I started my career at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Now, the Port Authority owns and operates, I got to read this because we own and operate so many different things. We own and operate the 5 major New York airports, all the tunnels, bridges, and terminals, subway systems, port facilities, satellite farms, and industrial parks in the states of New York and New Jersey. I was part of the restoration team, and the World Trade Center where our corporate offices were located. I was part of the restoration team in the aftermath of the 1993 bombing as the environmental specialist, and years later was part of the Office of Emergency Management during the events of 9/11. As the attacks were unfolding, I assumed the position of chief of the logistics section in our Emergency Operations Center and function in that position until recovery operations were completed 8 months later. We did lose many friends on 9/11 that we will never forget. Some of the real heroes that day were the responders who ran into those towers without any regard for their own safety. During the events of 9/11, I did what I was expected to do. I did what I was trained to do. We had to succeed. Failure was not an option. The families that had loved ones in those towers were depending on the response teams. Two friends of mine told me of how an angel led them to safety before the tower they were in collapsed. Jerry Weekly called to see if I was okay. During this past homecoming, I spoke with Reverend Despain. He told us how some of the Baker students went to the Osborne Chapel and prayed for us that day. We heard them. When I finally arrived home 4 days later, my daughters were waiting in my driveway, waving an American flag. The outpouring of support from America gave us the inspiration to continue until our mission was complete. In 2005, 8 of us from the Port Authority's Office of Emergency Management were flown down to New Orleans to set up incident command a few days after Hurricane Katrina hit that area. You see, my education at Baker had provided me with the foundation to achieve my goals and to persevere through some of the toughest challenges this country has faced and we continue to face each day. Now that you've completed your degree from Baker, some of you will continue your education in specialized areas. Some of you will pursue your master's and doctorate degrees, and some of you will enter the working world to make your contribution to our society. The one constant you will find in each of these paths is that your education and learning will never end. Some professions will require continuing education credits. Some will require advanced specific training. Some companies will offer in-house training programs. As new technologies are developed, you will need to become familiar with and master these emerging technologies and strategies. The education you've received at Baker has provided you with a strong foundation and prepared you well for any of these eventualities. As you take your next step, never compromise your integrity, persevere through the tough times, meet your challenges head on, and continue to grow by owning confidence. And always remember, as you leave this university, you can always come back, and your Baker family will always be here to welcome you. Granted, some of the names and faces will have changed, but those present at Baker at that time will always treat you as a member of the Baker family. In closing, I leave you with this thought. At some time in your life, you will be called upon. You'll be faced with a challenge you never expected, whether it's in your personal or professional lives. This challenge will present you with obstacles never dealt with before, and others will depend on you for your actions and decisions. You will be looked upon for your leadership, courage, and knowledge. At first, you will not be sure to how to react, but you will reach deep down inside yourself to embrace that challenge and overcome all obstacles. You will perform at a level that you had not expected, and you will provide that leadership and courage, and you will make those difficult decisions to see it through. And when it's all over, you will know that you have answered that call. You did what you had to do. You performed at a level that will inspire others. You will be amazed at what you can accomplish when you need to, but then again, you are a Baker graduate, and you too will follow in the footsteps of its great alumni. I congratulate each one of you, wish you all continued success. God bless you, your families, and Baker University. Thank you.